Well, get this. According to a new report, for more than a year, Biden's inner circle has been working to keep signs of his aging under wraps. And Biden's staff, they did a good job. Biden's staff started worrying about him when they needed his ice cream cut up for him. I never heard of that, yeah. What? just put in little pieces, yeah.
Yeah, little pieces of ice cream for Lunch Bucket Joe, and a helmet and elbow pads and wrist guards for his riding the bicycle. But that's the exercise bike, and the stationary bike in the basement of the White House, a little bit odd, perhaps. Yeah, they've been keeping it a secret. That's a big lie. It's the Soviet Union used to do that about the frailty of their leaders. The communists, the Bolsheviks, with their fake military uniforms and reviewing the tanks driving by in Red Square. We should send Joe Biden to Red Square to review the tanks. He'd probably feel right at home. Wouldn't be sure whether it was home or not. He'd just play along because his brain, she's a no good, that brain of his. He's not gone yet. But I'm on the record, I guess. I don't have to keep saying it. He's not going to be the guy, but it's just a matter of time. He's hanging on for dear life. Once again, as I said yesterday, digging his fingernails into the leather desktop on the Resolute desk, which I don't think actually has a leather desktop. I just like the imagery. But never mind that. And Jill Biden, doctor, she's not a doctor, and this is proof, in case we needed any more evidence that she's not a doctor. If she were a doctor, she'd be administering CPR and putting him on a gurney, racing him down the hallway to the medical center in the White House, which is where he has spent a certain amount of time with the visiting doctors, from the Walter Reed Army Medical Center and all of that. We're learning just in bits and pieces, just like we used to during the Soviet days. But now we are playing the role of the Soviet Union. It's not the whole country so much. It's the Democratic Party, the so-called Democratic Party, which, as I'm fond of saying, the Democratic Party isn't. See, the Democratic Party isn't. Social media isn't. Common courtesy isn't. Friendly fire isn't. And President Joe Biden isn't, because it's a big lie, a very big lie. The big lie, the macro lie, is just the Democrat Party, their very existence. But setting that aside, we were laughing yesterday. We were on the air when we learned that George Clooney, St. George Clooney, is apparently a big power broker in Democrat Party politics because he plays dress up and make believe. Dress up and make believe is his way of life. And he's been very successful because America is a very generous country, an extraordinary country where dim-witted people, and I don't think Clooney's even a particularly dim-witted person, but, the Democrat Circle Fest that is Hollywood, California, where everybody makes $500 million. He made $300 million off of a tequila project that he became involved with, and congratulations to him. I think that's great. That's wonderful. But his opinion on matters of politics, very unimportant to me, of course. And he had this fundraiser where he helped Joe Biden and the Democrats raise $30 million, not of his own money, but of other people's money. They love OPM, other people's money, and raised the money. And Clooney then sat silent along with that whole other gang of wankers from, who else was there that we learned about yesterday who came out of the closet? There are more Hollywood people coming forward saying, oh, yeah, he was a complete wreck at that Hollywood fundraiser, but we didn't say anything because we lie when we're sitting here in silence, and we lie when we're sleeping. I'm not talking about lying down in that case. They lie when they're sitting in the back of their limousines and there's nobody else there. They sit in silence because the big lie is the big lie. And like their boy Joseph Goebbels, or Gurgle, as the Reverend Al Charlatan might call him, Gurgle's big lie, make the lie so big that no one would dare not believe it. See, such a shameless, brazen lie, so fantastical and spectacular that the public would not dare to claim that the lie is not true, because you'd be thinking to yourself, well, no one would tell a lie that big, so it's got to be true, right? but it turns out that's not the case. So he got some remarkable things. And Clooney, he was in a couple of things, and then he was on a TV show and all that. And now he's a political power broker because he spoke, and bam, the whole corrupt, ignorant, interbred media establishment, they snapped too. Oh, no. I mean, I mocked when we first learned of it, and it just popped while we were on there. I said, oh, well, that's it. When I've lost George Clooney, I've lost America. As Lyndon Baines Johnson famously said of then CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite, when Walter Cronkite on the CBS Evening News talking about the Vietnam War and riots in America and all this stuff, and a negative report about LBJ, which was not expected even back then by the Democrat Party, long time ago. And LBJ famously said, if I've lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost America. And now it's if I've lost George Clooney, I've lost America. Really? If I've lost Reba McEntire, I've lost America. Who else is there? If I've lost Chuck Todd, I've lost America. No, I mean, we've become a ridiculous TV-driven celebrity culture. And this Clooney episode is just one more embarrassment on that front. But there are other people like Obama White House speechwriter Jon Favreau, who's not a Hollywood actor, but he shares the same name as Hollywood actor. And Jon Favreau, he was on CNN yesterday with Dana Bash, a dedicated Democrat Party front woman who was married to an Obama administration official, no more, of course, but was married to an Obama administration official, one of the signatories of the Felonious 51 fraudulent, the felony letter, the tampering in our presidential election letter, the information operation that they ran against the United States. But Jon Favreau was on CNN yesterday, and he was there with David Axelrod. And both of them are saying, and Favreau was there at the fundraiser in Los Angeles, too, because it's a Circle Fest in a hot tub. And at Jack Nicholson's house, see Roman Polanski. But never mind that. And Jon Favreau said some kind of astonishing things. The Obama people have turned against Biden. The Clintonistas have turned against Biden. The news media, they're having a gender panic, a sexual panic of some kind when it comes to Joe Biden. And so he's in big trouble. The Atlantic, a left-wing front group for the Democrat Party, yet another one. Biden is digging in, but it doesn't get any better from there. That's the headline there. Also, it's worth noting that Joe Biden is now set to do an interview for television with NBC News' Lester Holt. And they're going to be doing the interview in Austin, Texas on Monday. Going to put it on video, and then they're going to have not live, of course, because they don't want to risk that. The White House doesn't want to risk it. NBC doesn't want to risk it. So they're going to pre-tape it, then they're going to edit the interview and presumably clean it up in the Soviet fashion for the Democrats and for Joe Biden and his White House. But Lester Holt, who is probably the least bad, I think, of the network news anchors, I'll take him over just about any of them. But Lester Holt is going to interview Joe Biden on Monday in Austin, Texas. They're going to do a 9 p.m. Eastern Monday night prime time special. Their blockbuster exclusive interview with Joe Biden, Lunch Bucket Joe. And nobody seems to have noticed this, but isn't Monday the first night of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? It's the first night of we just call it the RNC now because we reduce everything to abbreviations and acronyms. And the RNC used to be the Republican National Committee now, and it still is, but it's also the Republican National Convention because what do we care? What do we know? We like to sow confusion in every conversation we have. But they're counter-programming. The White House called NBC and said, hey, let's counter-program the first night of the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And NBC said, great idea. And they rubbed their claws together because it's all politics all the time for our media, our corrupt news media. Biden remains defiant as he sets prime time interview with NBC's Lester Holt. The counter programming is that's the interesting part of it. And here's our idea. And I got to say that we came up with this at Newsmax yesterday. And my friend, executive producer, I believe it was Jeff Field, who said, yes, the Trump camp should go to NBC and to Lester Holt now and say, hey, since you guys are interviewing Biden and doing a primetime special as the Republican National Convention launches in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Trump people should say, we'd like to do an interview with Lester Holt on the first day of the Democratic National Convention and have you guys do a 9 p.m. Eastern primetime Trump interview on NBC the first night of the Democratic Convention as they launch their convention, right? That is fair play. That's equal time. That would be fair and square, fair and balanced, to coin a phrase. And the Trump camp really should step up today. They should have done it yesterday and put it out publicly on Truth Social. Say, since NBC and Lester Holt are doing a primetime 9 p.m. Eastern interview pre-taped and edited with Joe Biden as the Republican convention opens, we would like, in the interest of equal time, we'd like to have Lester Holt do an interview with President Trump that will be on at 9 p.m. Eastern the first night of the Democratic National Convention, because that's fair and square. And then they would deny that request immediately because they're a gang of Democrat Party shills. And then it would once again expose what we already know. It's like, the sky is blue, the media is corrupt. But I think that would be an excellent, excellent idea. We now have a Democrat senator that has come out and said it's time for Joe Biden to drop out of the race, along with a whole, a minivan full, at least, of Democrat members of the House of Representatives and lots of other Democrats. And then, of course, the Democrat political machine, from the Clintonistas to the Obama people. And there are gaggles of them everywhere that have come and say, Joe Biden has to go. Joe Biden has to go. So we've got a lot of updates for you on that. And Joe Biden is supposed to be holding his big guy press conference tonight. They're calling it the Bob's Big Boy presser, but he's going to allegedly hold a press and what this has to do with NATO. The NATO summit is wrapping up in Washington, D.C., and we, the United States, are hosting the NATO summit this year with the United States plus 31 NATO allies. And Joe Biden, as it wraps up today, and it hasn't been very disruptive in the city of Washington, I got to say. Even traffic, not such a big deal. And where I go downtown to Newsmax after I leave here, there are barricades set up there and stuff, but it still hasn't been very disruptive, interestingly enough. But the NATO summit is wrapping up today, and then Joe Biden at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, not past his bedtime, not a prime time press conference, and it's not at the White House. It's at the Convention Center, which is dangerous downtown Washington neighborhood, and he's going to be. They've been calling it his big boy press conference, and everybody just thinks of the restaurant, right? Bob's Big Boy and whatever Big Boy restaurant. Apparently everywhere in the country, it's not the same Bob's Big Boy. It's this big boy and that big boy, but it's always Big Boy. And they say it's his big boy press conference. And they thought that was cutesy at the cringe press conference at the White House the other day. But we call it his big guy press conference because he's the big guy in all of Hunter Biden's emails and the Hunter Biden laptop that they lied to us about for a year and a half, that the intelligence community lied to us about. Speaking of which, a nice listener out there sent us a beautifully mounted photograph of John Brennan, the CIA director, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. Black and white of John Brennan in prison garb behind bars, and it's great. It looks it looks like an actual picture of John Brennan in prison behind bars. It's very nice, and I thank you for that. We have that in our office, and it may be where he ends up. But the big guy press conference tonight, and Oh no, how will he do? Will he do okay? Well, I guess we'll find out, but it will be a highly rated press conference to be sure. The world will be watching. Biden's solo, unscripted news conference, a pivotal moment in debate rebound effort. ABC News headline. What a gang of... But wait till you hear this Greenpeace guy, Patrick Moore, Dr. Patrick Moore, is one of the founders of Greenpeace, and he's got a lot to say about the hot weather out there today and CO2 and global warming, and it may not be what you expect. Also, CNN laying off people because nobody watches them anymore because they're about as trustworthy as a convicted child molester. And that's a problem when you're in the news media business. So we got that and a few other things coming up today. We remain at 888-630-9625. The New York Post's front page today is great, as is so often the case. Got a picture with Biden and Clooney, and they were at this fundraiser in Los Angeles with the billionaires because they're the party of the little guy. Just a few weeks ago, raising tens of millions of dollars because they're the party of the little guy. And the headline is Star Dem Donor. What is he, a brain donor? Because that's what they need now. Star Dem donor George says Biden too far gone to stay in race. It all comes back to race, doesn't it, with these people? And the big headline is, doesn't have a Clooney. Doesn't have a Clooney. He has no Clooney whatsoever. Isn't that great? Let's grab a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Dave on line 3, calling from Rockville, Maryland. David, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Plant.
Hey, Dave.
This is Dave. Hey, I had an idea for you for the opening of the RNC when Biden's doing his press conference. Mm-hmm. Instead of having Trump do one when they're doing it, make the Biden press conference a huge part of the convention. I would set up a room for it, invite everybody there, have popcorn. Nothing tells the story better than just letting Biden tell it himself.
No, that's a fun idea. Now, the opening night of the convention is actually the the interview, not George Clooney, the Joe Biden interview with Lester Holt that NBC is going to air at 9 p.m. But you're right. Maybe just put NBC up on the big screen and let everybody laugh.
Make it the star attraction. Make it the star attraction.
What
do you need?
That's kind of a fun idea. I got to say, that is kind of a fun idea to just put it up on, because there will be big screen TVs up there. Naturally, it's a political convention in the age of big screen TVs. And put up Lester Holt and Joe Biden so everybody can follow along and laugh and cheer and jeer. That'd be great. Now, a lot of political stuff to get to, of course, because, the world has gone mad, and the United States is at the epicenter of the world, as usual, and Joe Biden is amazingly the president of the United States for the moment, for the time being, and that will change soon enough. If I'm right, and if I'm wrong, then perhaps it won't. But there is the Democrat Party. I think the Democrat Party has made their decision. I think they've made their decision, and their decision is to move on from him. Funny story out of New York, also a law firm, and the anti-Israel protests on college campuses, in particular Ivy League college campuses, and there has been a development there, an interesting development there. Now, let me share with you a bit of there's video. I'm going to share the audio portion of it with you since I'm on the radio and not the television. You already knew that, though. And fascinating story. Dr. Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, the Save the Whales people, the Save the World, Save the Environment people. And he posted a video that's quite fascinating, I think. I went and looked him up because Patrick Moore, Schmatrick Moore, what do I care? Co-founder, former leader of Greenpeace, chairman of Ecology, Energy, and Prosperity with Canada's Frontier Center for Public policy. And with his biography in front of me here, seems like a perfectly normal, intelligent person, and as leader of many campaigns, Dr. Moore was a driving force in shaping policy and direction for 15 years in Canada and beyond, while Greenpeace became the world's largest environmental activist organization. And in recent years, Dr. Moore has been, I don't think he's a medical doctor either, has been focused on the promotion of sustainability and consensus building among competing concerns. They have competing concerns in Canada now? Well, he was a member of the British Columbia government, this appointed round table on the environment and the economy from 1990 to 1994, and Dr. Moore founded and chaired the British Columbia Carbon Project. He's an environmentalist, and the Carbon Project, that's CO2. That's a group that worked to develop common understanding of climate change. He's a climate change pioneer. He's not the Reverend Al Gore, peace be upon him, but he is Dr. Moore, which is kind of fun too. Served 4 years vice president for environment and for Water Furnace International, manufactured geothermal heat pumps, and they all find a way to get rich off of the thing. So let's go to this fella here, because he posted a video, and I found this to be quite interesting and surprising, honestly. And he's doing this in front of a Canadian government, like the House of Parliament. And let's go to soundbite number 30, Michael, number 30. So here is Dr. Patrick Moore, and this is going to come as a surprise. I want to get other stuff in as well, in addition to Joe Biden's crumbling collapse. But let's go to Dr. Patrick Moore, Greenpeace founder, and he now, I do this because I thought it was great to see it today, since it's hot out today. And every time it's hot out, the Democrats tell you that it's hotter than it actually is, for one thing, right? Because it's supposed to be 96 degrees today, like it was yesterday, 96, 97, 98 degrees. So it's hot, and it's summer in Washington. And they tell you, but the heat index is 110. So it really feels like 110. And my response is, well, no, it's 97, so it feels like 97, but 97 sure is hot. There is never a day when they say the thermometer shows that it's 97 degrees, but it feels like it's 84.
We're screwed. Just walk outside in winter in a lot of places, and it's either way worse than you're used to or way warmer than you're used to.
One or the other. And either way, Greta Thunberg is terrified by that while she travels around on other people's private yachts and private jets. But the whole left-wing thing is crazy. Now let's go to Dr. Patrick Moore, who is one of the founders of climate hysteria and Greenpeace, environmentalism and environmental radicalism, and it's quite a remarkable story. Here is Dr. Patrick Moore on the hot weather outside. I want to know why, if it's 97 degrees and they tell you it can feel like 110 one day, why can't it feel like 83 degrees the next day, even though the thermometer, fickle though it may be, tells you it's mere 97 degrees. Dr. Patrick Moore.
One of my missions is to turn on its head the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant and somehow dangerous.
What?
When in fact it is the most important nutrient for all life on Earth, and without it this would be a dead planet. So I say not only is carbon dioxide good, it is essential. And it's a good thing that we are putting some more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because it was running low before we came along.
We were running a little low on CO2, running a little low on carbon dioxide, and that was problematic. So thankfully, we humans and our SUVs and our airplanes and exhaling and things like that, thankfully, we're putting more CO2 into the environment. And honestly, so you're welcome.
This is all wrong.
You're absolutely welcome. Planet Earth, you can thank us later. Democrats, lefties, and all other lunatics and mentally ill people, you can thank us later for putting this extra CO2 into the environment, because without it, it's one of the primary nutrients of the planet Earth, and where would we be without it? Dr. Moore on CO2.
If we had definitive proof that CO2 was causing serious problems and we could prove it, don't you think they would write that down on a piece of paper somewhere so people could read it?
I think so.
They don't have definitive proof, period, in science. I'm a student of the philosophy and history of science, and I know that the scientific method has not been applied in such a way as to prove that carbon dioxide is causing the Earth to warm.
But they're the party of science. They're the science people and the organ harvesting people and all of that stuff. Come on, Dr. Patrick Moore of the Canadian Everything Environmental of Greenpeace. You can't tell me that CO2 isn't a problem and it isn't causing global warming. You know, it reminds me of the slanderous obituaries that came out for now deceased Oklahoma Senator James Inhofe. And the New York Times had, James Inhofe, climate denier, right? That's the headline. And then, Politico and Newsweek, and they all follow the head of the centipede, and that's the New York Times. The Washington Post did the same thing today with a slanderous headline because they're always a little slow. They're kind of behind. But their headline for the obituary of the senator from Oklahoma, James Inhofe, is the same thing, climate denier. And now the founding father of Greenpeace is a climate denier. When he dies, and I hope he lives a long and happy life, when he dies, I think the first line in his obituary is going to have to be climate denier Dr. Patrick Moore, because, that's just to be consistent. Of course, they're not consistent, are they? The front page of the Metro sectional in the Washington Post today, front page story above the poll, 7 dead as extreme heat grips region. Well, come on, that's nothing. Democrats shot and killed 19 in Chicago over the weekend. What are you guys talking about? That's practically nothing, just the extreme heat. More people die from cold than from extreme heat. Although we've got conflicting government data on that in the United States of America. We have one major government agency that says that heat kills more people, and another major government agency that says that cold kills more people. So they let you decide. You just roll the dice. Yeah, and the Washington Post today, Metro sectional, page 4, long-tenured senator from Oklahoma was outspoken denier of climate change. And now the founder of Greenpeace, Dr. Patrick Moore, apparently an outspoken denier of climate change and CO2, which is proven science. Just ask Al Gore. He is a scientist, isn't he? And he's what he specializes in, though, is not CO2 release, but chakra release. He wants to have his chakra released every time he gets a massage from a woman everywhere in the world. That's Al Gore. Grotesque dirigible that he is.
You think in a few years, say 50 years from now, people go, that was a really stupid period in our history when we tried to change all our energy policies to cut this gas?
I am firmly of the belief that the future will show that this whole hysteria over climate change was a complete fabrication.
Complete, and there he is. This is the founder of Greenpeace, a Canadian government guru on matters of climate and CO2, and he's having none of it. He doesn't buy this. He's a climate denier. How dare he deny the climate?
This is for real. It is not made up.
I don't deny the climate. I recognize that there is a climate, and I also acknowledge that the climate changes. As someone that grew up, for the most part, along the coast of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is a lake. It's a great lake, and boy, it is great, isn't it? It's one of the 5 Great Lakes, and they're all pretty great. I got to say, they're great. And they're freshwater seas is what they are. They're created because they're big ditches where they reside, and those dents in the earth were created by massive glaciers that used to reside there. And when the glaciers melted, they left dents in the earth and filled them with water from the melting glaciers. That indicates to me that the climate changed because there were glaciers there. There aren't anymore, although sometimes in the winter time it feels like it in Chicago. And so the climate has changed. Maine used to be covered with glaciers, and Minnesota And sharks used to swim where Kansas is because the Gulf of Mexico came up to there, and you find the skeletors under the ground and things like that. But never mind any of that. Climate changes, and it might have something to do, this is just my guess, I'm not a scientist, with the great ball of fire in the sky. You know, the great ball of fire in the sky where some days you can fry an egg on the hood of your car, especially if it's painted black, you know, because it gets out of there. And the great ball of fire, the massive ball of fire, that might have something to do with the climate in the United States. Solar flares leap up and interfere with our satellites created by the patriarchy, and not the solar flares, the satellites and all that stuff.
How
Remarkable.
dare you?
Yeah, and Greta Thunberg, they have these child prophets, these children. It really is. It reminds me of the stupidity of prehistoric times and child sacrifices by the Incans and the Mayans and madness. We do a lot of crazy things. In human history, in Germany, for example, they burned teenage girls, calling them witches for a period of time. We hanged some girls in the United States in Salem, Massachusetts for being witches, too. We didn't burn any, but we hanged a couple and did crazy things. And now we're convinced that some people are. I'm not really terrified by it. And if it's getting warmer, we should adapt because that's what we do. If it's our fault, then we should adapt because it's our fault and we should adapt. And the Democrats tell you they're just going to take away all your stuff and then the weather will get better. No matter what happens in China and India and the rest of the world, they lie about everything.
There is no planet blah, 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 blah.
And they all clap. These are the people we're dealing with, and they all clap at that. Every day is an IQ test, and I've noticed that a lot of people are failing every day. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Don, calling from Woodbridge, Virginia. Don, you're on the Chris Plant Show. Hey, Don.
Hey, Chris, I had to call in when you talked about this garbage. I know that there's a heat index and everything, but you said 97. It's 97. It's not 102. Just
right.
Because of a little humidity. Just
right.
Like if there's a cool breeze, it doesn't feel like 89.
Right.
I think it's garbage every time I hear that, and I'm out in the sun a lot doing yard work. So I cringe every time I hear that.
Cringe?
Every time.
Speaking of cringe, we've got cringe audio coming up in the show today, too.
Okay, well, I just had to make that comment because I have people look at me and say, well, the humidity is bad. Well, okay, you sweat a little bit, but it's still only 97.
Yeah, that's right. The temperature is 97 degrees, and today it's humid.
Yep.
And that means it's hot and sweaty, all right? And sometimes, like if you're in Arizona, it's 114, and they say, but it's a dry heat, right, Don?
Oh,
but it's a dry heat.
I just either pour the water on me from the hose or get in my car and cool off a little bit. But no, that I do Corinne, whatever every time I hear that. So I'm with you. I listen every day.
Well, thank you, Don. That is great to hear. And and you're right. These are simple scientific questions, and we should the nature of science is that you question everything. And we've got a political party in the United States that doesn't think clearly. They've abandoned all of the lessons of Western civilization, of the Enlightenment, of the Renaissance. So, we came out of the Dark Ages long ago, and the left, and the Democrat Party is not democratic, they are the left. They're dragging us backward, in many cases by centuries, on matters of race, for which, the issues related are driven pretty much entirely by the Democratic Party, going back to Jefferson Davis and Nathan Bedford Forrest and George Wallace and Orville Faubus and Sheriff Bull Connor, the Democrat Party. They're dragging us back decades. We must go forward. We must use our intellectual strengths, our knowledge, what we've learned from history. And they're burning all of that to the ground.
You have stolen my dreams, my childhood, with your empty words. And yet, I'm one of the lucky ones.
That's true. Both parts of that are true. Yes, the Democrats have stolen your dreams because, and in Europe, the left, same thing, because we are now the European left, the rioting European left. You see in France the other day where the left won some political victories over what they call the right. The right are the common sense people who know that the world is round and orbits the sun. And the left won some big political victories in the election the other day. And so the left went out and burned stuff and attacked people, and they were violent, and they spray painted monuments in Paris and things. And it's exactly what we see now in Washington at Lafayette Park. We saw it a couple of weeks ago with the crazy left. They were pro-Hamas and anti-Jewish because they're anti-Semites and they love terrorism. So they've saddled up with Hamas and abandoned Israel. And they were doing exactly the same thing, spray painting the monuments in Lafayette Park, not being arrested, not being charged with crimes, not being forced to pay for the damage that they've done, because the left runs Washington, D.C., and the left runs the Biden administration and the federal government. We used to laugh at I have been following this stuff for a long time. I would laugh at the crazy left in France and in Germany where they have left-wing terror groups and all this stuff. And now we got Antifa, which was a terror group founded in Germany in the 1930s. It's supposed to be anti-fascist when they're as fascist as the fascists that they say they're against. But never mind that. And the fascists they were against at the time called themselves the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. But pay no attention to that. I got that was fun. And Dr. Patrick Moore on climate change brought up because it's, the weather today is hysterical everywhere you look. The media, it's 97 degrees, but really it's 110, and that's a record. It's a record if you don't call it 97 degrees, if you call it 110. So let's just play that game. All right, I've got all kinds of stuff. President Trump, Democrats, Biden coming up.